The Widow, Episode 05. The rain fell heavily that night like the tears Isabel silently cried. The death of her beloved Ricardo still hurt, an open wound in her chest. But a new warmth was beginning to emerge, a warmth that both frightened and enchanted her. A mysterious smile from Daniel, the gallant and charming neighbor, made her forget for a moment the pain. Would Isabel be able to leave the past behind and surrender to this new love? Or will someone prevent this love from blossoming? Someone who harbors a terrible secret, hidden in the shadows of that rainy night. A secret that could destroy everything. The rain beat hard against the windows of Isabel's house, as if trying to enter and wash away all the sadness that dwelled there. It was a cold rain, a winter rain, reflecting the loneliness that had frozen Isabel's heart since the death of Ricardo, her beloved husband. She loved him more than anything in the world, and the memory of him was a constant ghost, a shadow that accompanied her every step, every breath. In that immense pain, Isabel had sworn that she would never love again, that her heart would be an unshakable fortress against any other feeling. She built tall, impenetrable walls around her wounded heart, walls of ice that seemed unbreakable. But then Daniel arrived. Daniel, with his smile as bright as the sun that pierced the dark clouds of her life, with his gentle eyes that seemed to see beyond the defenses built with such care. He was a hurricane of kindness, a whirlwind of affection that gradually won her over, melting, drop by drop, the ice that imprisoned her heart. The encounters were furtive, full of secrets and complicit glances, as if they were two birds finding a secret refuge in the midst of the storm. These encounters, however brief, were oases in an arid landscape of pain. Isabel felt a warmth she hadn't felt for a long time, a flame that seemed to be reborn from the ashes, a warmth that frightened her as much as it comforted her. Could she allow herself to feel again? But Ricardo's shadow still loomed over her present. Alberto, Ricardo's brother, watched everything with furious eyes. Alberto had always secretly loved Isabel, a dark passion fueled by pain and frustration. He had never been able to confess his feelings, bound by respect and loyalty to his brother. Now Alberto's passion was transforming into a whirlwind of hate and possession. Seeing Isabel finding solace in another man's arms was like a stab in his heart, an unforgivable betrayal. That rainy night, Alberto followed Isabel from afar, hidden in the shadows. His steps were silent, like those of a hungry cat stalking its prey. He saw her smile, saw the tenderness in her eyes when Daniel touched her, and the rage transformed into a destructive force. Alberto harbored a terrible secret, a secret he had kept for years, a secret that connected Ricardo and Isabel's past to a much darker plot, a secret that could destroy not only the new love that was blossoming, but also the very foundation of Isabel's life. The memory of a dark night, a night very similar to that one, haunted his thoughts. A night when he saw Ricardo and Isabel arguing heatedly, almost fighting. An argument so intense that the sound of their voices, muffled by the rain that was falling at the time, didn't reach his ears. But he saw Ricardo very agitated, gesturing wildly, his expression one of total nervousness. Alberto had hidden, watching everything, feeling an inexplicable anguish. He had heard a scream. A strangled scream, followed by a profound silence. A silence that echoed in Alberto's memory, a silence that hid something terrible. He thought of approaching, of helping them, but fear, the fear that the worst might happen, paralyzed him. The next day, Ricardo was dead. An accident, they said. But Alberto knew, deep down in his heart, that something much darker had happened that night. A secret he had kept for years. And the possibility of Isabel falling in love again threatened to expose that secret. As the rain continued to fall, Alberto watched from the darkness as Daniel approached Isabel. He felt a knot in his throat, a mixture of hate, envy, and fear, a fear that impelled him to make a decision that could destroy everything, that could bury forever any chance of happiness for Isabel, for Daniel, and perhaps even for himself. Alberto clenched his fists, his knuckles whitened, and he felt a chill down his spine. Even in the rain, he had to act. He needed to prevent, by any means, this new love from blossoming. It was a race against time, a battle against destiny itself. Isabel's destiny, Daniel's destiny, and his own, dark and full of shadows. The rain stubbornly continued to fall, each drop a tear on Isabel's soul. The memory of Ricardo, still alive and painful, mingled with the unexpected warmth that Daniel awakened in her heart. It was like a paradox, the coldness of loss and the hot flame of a new love. Daniel, with his gentle gestures and his smile capable of illuminating the darkest night, managed, little by little, to penetrate the ice walls that Isabel had erected around her heart. She allowed herself to smile, she allowed herself to feel, but a deep fear haunted her, the fear of surrendering completely, of getting burned again. The furtive encounters continued, full of secrets and whispers hidden in the penumbra of rainy nights. A stolen kiss, a touch of hands, a look that spoke more than 1,000 words. These moments were brief, intense, like lighthouses lit in the midst of a storm. They were drops of hope in an ocean of pain. But happiness, so fragile, so newly discovered, was threatened by a sinister shadow. Alberto, Ricardo's brother, watched everything from the dark like a hungry wolf on the prowl. His repressed passion for Isabel, now transformed into voracious hatred, fueled by envy and possession. He followed her through the wet streets, hidden under the cloak of rain, his soul a storm of fury and resentment. Each smile Isabel gave Daniel was a stab in his heart, each gesture of affection an unimaginable betrayal. But Alberto kept a secret as heavy as lead that could destroy Isabel's newly found happiness. A secret dating back to the fateful night of Ricardo's death, a night of torrential rain, very much like the present one. Alberto remembered the argument between Ricardo and Isabel, voices muffled by the rain, nervous gestures, a strangled scream, and then silence. A profound silence that buried a terrible secret. He blamed himself for not having approached, for having stood still, terrified, lurking like a shadow. That night, Alberto hadn't just seen a fight. He had seen something much worse, something that haunted and paralyzed him to this day. A secret that, if revealed, could destroy Isabel and Daniel and Alberto himself, drowned in his guilt and obsession. The possibility of Isabel finding happiness again, of Isabel loving again, was a direct threat to this secret, a threat to his own sanity. The memory of that night haunted him, the rain intensified his torment, each thunderclap echoing like the scream he still heard in his nightmares. With each encounter between Isabel and Daniel, Alberto's anguish intensified. He needed to act, to prevent, to destroy this happiness before it was able to unearth his truth, his terrible secret. The rage that consumed him was as potent as the hatred he felt for Daniel, a hatred that impelled him to plan something terrible, something that could forever destroy Isabel's chance to find peace. Watching them from afar, hidden in the shadows of that rainy and stormy night, Alberto planned his next move, a decision that could seal the fate of Isabel and Daniel. He clenched his fists so hard that he felt his nails digging into his skin. His mind was feverish, a cauldron of rage, fear, and a secret that threatened to explode, taking everything with it. The rain continued to fall, the wind howled, and Alberto's heart beat hard in his chest. Desperate beats as if hell itself were approaching? He had to decide. Would he surrender to the darkness that inhabited his interior, or would he find the strength to face his own shadows? The decision, so vital, hung over him, as heavy as the secret he had carried for so long. The rain fell as if the sky were weeping along with Isabel. The memory of Ricardo, her deceased husband, was still an open wound in her heart, a throbbing pain that accompanied her every step. But a new warmth, an unexpected and frightening warmth, was beginning to melt the ice that had imprisoned her heart since the tragedy. Daniel, with his enchanting smile and gentle eyes, was a sun breaking through the dark clouds of her life. He was a comfort, a hope that left her both frightened and fascinated at the same time. Would she be able to love again? Would she be able to leave the past behind? But the shadows of the past were long and menacing. Alberto, Ricardo's brother, watched everything from afar, hidden in the shadows of that stormy night. His eyes, full of hate and resentment, followed Isabel's every smile, Daniel's every affectionate gesture. The repressed passion for Isabel had transformed into uncontrollable fury. Isabel's happiness was an affront to Alberto, an unforgivable betrayal. He had to prevent that love from blossoming, no matter the cost. Alberto was not just a jealous observer. He kept a terrible secret, a dark and heavy secret, dating back to the night of Ricardo's death. A rainy night, much like this one, in which Ricardo and Isabel had a violent argument. Alberto had heard a scream silenced by the storm, followed by a profound silence, a silence that carried a secret he had kept for years, a secret that could destroy everything. The possibility of Isabel falling in love again was a direct threat to his truth, a truth he had been protecting at all costs. That night, as Isabel and Daniel surrendered to a moment of tenderness, a moment stolen under the cloak of rain, Alberto planned his next move. Rage bubbled inside him, hot and destructive like the lava of a volcano about to erupt. He watched, with every glance, every touch, every whisper between the lovers, the secret corroding him from within. At that climax, the tension was palpable. The wind howled, the trees swayed furiously, and the rain beat against the windows as if shouting its secrets to the world. Isabel, enveloped in the magic of love reborn, did not perceive the danger that approached. Daniel, so passionate, so involved in his feelings, did not imagine the darkness that lurked in the shadows. Suddenly, a scream cut through the silence of the night. The scream was Daniel's, and Alberto approached, emerged from the shadows like a vengeful ghost. His hands trembled, but his gaze was firm, resolute. He held a gun in his hand. At that moment, Isabel perceived the danger. Alberto's eyes emanated pure hatred, pure cruelty. His eyes revealed how disturbed he was. The secret he had kept for so long threatened to explode, putting everything at risk. Isabel's gaze shifted to Daniel, who was wounded, lying on the ground, a trickle of blood running down his lip. A deep fear, a visceral fear, gripped Isabel's heart. A terror that froze her to the bone, because she knew that hatred, all that rage, was directed at her. Alberto pointed the gun at Daniel, who was bloodied on the ground, his eyes dark, cold, without a trace of humanity. Then he turned and pointed the gun directly at Isabel, while his gaze showed deep pain and regret. At that moment, Isabel understood everything. Alberto's secret was not just a dark secret. It was a secret that connected her directly to Ricardo's death. A silent scream, a terrible truth revealed by Alberto's blind fury, but also a deep pain and remorse in his eyes. The rain continued, as if the sky were weeping for Isabel's despair. Alberto's decision hung in the air, as heavy as the secret he carried. The reborn love and the shadow of the past clashed in a breathtaking climax, a moment that would forever change Isabel's life. The rain fell like a veil of tears over the city as Isabel surrendered to Daniel's arms, feeling a warmth she hadn't known for a long time. Their kiss was a passionate whisper on that stormy night, a secret shared between two hearts seeking solace and hope. But happiness was ephemeral, fragile as a rose petal in the wind. The shadow of Alberto, Ricardo's brother, loomed over them, dark and menacing as a storm cloud. Alberto watched everything hidden, his eyes burning with hatred and envy. The image of Isabel in another man's arms consumed him, fueling the fury that gnawed at him from within. He couldn't bear the idea of her happiness with someone other than him, his repressed passion transforming into a destructive monster, into an insatiable desire for revenge. But there was something else, something much darker than simple envy. A terrible secret that imprisoned him, an immeasurable weight that he had carried with him for years. The memory of the fateful night of Ricardo's death haunted him, a night of torrential rain, very much like this one. He remembered the heated argument between Ricardo and Isabel, the voices muffled by the storm, the nervous gestures, the strangled scream, and then ... silence, a terrible silence that hid a painful truth, a truth he had sworn to keep secret, a truth he blamed himself for hiding. Fear and guilt gnawed at him from within, but the rage and obsession with Isabel were stronger. He needed to prevent her from being happy. He needed to extinguish that newly lit flame before it burned everything that remained of his sanity, before the truth came to light and dragged him into the abyss of his own guilt. As the rain beat hard against the windows, Alberto approached, emerging from the shadows like a vengeful specter. Isabel, wrapped in a passionate embrace with Daniel, did not notice the sinister presence approaching. Daniel's smile instantly faded at the sight of the shadowy figure approaching. The gun in Alberto's hand gleamed in the dim light of the streetlights, a deadly reflection that cut through the romantic atmosphere of the night. The cold and implacable expression on Alberto's face froze Isabel's heart. Her gaze met Alberto's, a gaze laden with a deep hatred that left her breathless. At that moment, Alberto was no longer just a jealous brother. He was the executor of dark justice, the avenger of a dark and turbulent past. He opened his mouth to speak, but before a single word could escape, a shot echoed through the rainy night. The shot hit Daniel, but it wasn't Alberto who fired. A woman's figure emerged from the shadows, appearing out of nowhere like a ghostly apparition. She was holding the smoking gun. It was Ricardo's ex-wife. She pointed the gun at Isabel and smiled. A look of contempt and deep vengeance was present in her eyes. Isabel's expression was a mixture of shock, disbelief, and terror. She couldn't believe what was happening. What did that woman want? Why was she there? Ricardo's ex-wife took a step forward and said calmly, as the rain continued, "Finally, revenge is mine. But before I finish you off, Isabel, I want to reveal the truth about Ricardo's death." The camera focuses on Isabel's wide eyes, full of terror and expectation. The rain continues to fall, a relentless veil of mystery over Isabel's uncertain future and the dark secret that was finally about to be revealed. A truth hidden for years, and the identity of the mysterious woman who shot Daniel.